So, Michael Hiltzik of the Los Angeles Times, you've also been covering, interestingly enough, the anti-vaxxer movement, as it's called, the Jenny McCarthy. A lot of people know about the movement to prevent, the movement to blame vaccinations, blame autism on vaccinations, or to suggest that somehow it's a conspiracy of some kind. And so a lot of New Agers and let's say alternative thinkers have been embracing this scientifically unsound anti-vaxxer movement. And as a result, as many people know, a lot of children got sick at Disneyland, and now we're seeing secondary infections. But you've had an interesting take on that in several columns, which is basically the social cost and what do we do about that when someone exercises. It's a classic collision of individual freedom and public good, but it's an extreme one. And where's your thinking on that now?
Yes, well, I've been following the anti-vax movement for a couple of years because I have a particular interest in people who rely on absolutely the most unscientific evidence to make their personal decisions. But I think the Disneyland measles outbreak is, although sad and tragic and injurious for scores of people, maybe hundreds or more, there's a silver lining in that it is focusing attention on the toll of the anti-vaccination movement. When you start with the realization that this movement is based on absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever, in fact, based on a fraudulent paper in the UK several years ago that purported to show this connection between the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine and autism, then it really does get to the question of who's responsible when we have a measles outbreak that's associated with the anti-vaccine movement, particularly when that movement is concentrated geographically as it is. And there's a lot of interesting work that's been done on that, a lot of proposals. The most extreme is that parents who don't have their children vaccinated should be put in jail. Now that's one end of it, but since measles outbreaks, the outbreaks of vaccine preventable diseases are very, very expensive for the community. Patients have to be rounded, they have to be found, they have to be identified, sometimes they have to be taken out of school, there's a cost to treating them, all these things, and we can identify in many cases the source of these outbreaks. We can trace it back to individual unvaccinated children or even unvaccinated adults. So how do we make them pay? And I've been writing about a lot of the proposals to do that. One is make them subject to lawsuits, which certainly it's well within our tort system to do that. There's another proposal to make them pay a fee or a tax for the privilege of being exempt from vaccination. Now, that's interesting. It does enable society to assess the cost of non-vaccination. The problem that I have with it is that it puts a price tag on something that we don't want people to do at any price. In other words, If you say to an anti-vaccination parent, well, it's going to cost you $500 per year to have this exemption, they may be willing to pay, and society doesn't really benefit from having them pay that price because they end up not having their children vaccinated, which is something that we don't want them to do.
And it also creates a special privilege status for those who have the money. I mean, I wonder if it's such a fascinating ethical question to me, Michael Hiltzik of the Los Angeles Times, because then why shouldn't I be able to pay $50,000 to drive drunk?
That's exactly right. You simply don't want to set a price for that for the reason that you just mentioned. One is that some people that the price will mean different things to people in different socioeconomic levels. And one of the problems with anti-vaccination is that we do find that a lot of these pockets of resistance to immunization are affluent, well-educated people, communities like Marin County, Orange County here in California, where parents just have this feeling that they know better than doctors, they know better than the scientific community, and they're exercising their intelligence in making these distinctions. So you are going to have, I think you're going to encourage people to resist vaccination. That's exactly the wrong thing to do. You're going to allow the communities where we already have this problem with low vaccination rates, you're going to encourage them to be even more anti-vaccination. And you're not going to do anything good for the community.
And I think it's such a fascinating issue because it also gets to the breakdown, the idea of a breakdown of a commonly shared reality with whether it's global climate change or anything else. So it's a fascinating topic. I thank you for covering it, and I thank you for coming on the show, Michael Hiltzik of the Los Angeles Times.
It's my pleasure, as always.
Thanks so much. And we will be right back after this. I am RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.